One question I have been seeing is Silent Hill even real? And did James dream up all of this? Or is Silent Hill some kind of purgatory? Well, the answer is no, but yes, but really, no. Please stay with me, let me explain. Without spoiling the other games, let me say that yes, Silent Hill is a real place in the game's universe. It is not an allegory for purgatory, it is a very real place that people can visit. Due to the events mentioned in Silent Hill 1, the town of Silent Hill basically has the ability to manifest aspects of a person's psyche. It calls to certain people, those that find themselves involved and embroiled within the town's darker paranormal side. Will find themselves facing aspects of their unconscious and subconscious minds. I will not get into the why without spoiling the other games, so I will leave it at that. Silent Hill is a very real place and people do in fact live there, but not everyone experiences the same paranormal side of Silent Hill, and those that do experience the paranormal side of it experience the town very differently. I will be shedding more light on that later. So what happened to James and what is his actual story? For the entire of the game, James is looking for his dead wife. The first thing to understand is that James is an unreliable narrator, like me, and this only becomes apparent later on in the game, towards the end of it. So the first thing James tells us is that he received a letter from Mary, his wife, but that is impossible because she died from a freaking disease 3 years ago. He then finds himself wandering the town where he meets several other people, Maria, Eddie, Laura, and Angela. Now of those people, one of them is not a real person at all, and if you never picked up on that, that is Maria. So when James meets Maria, she is really a manifestation pulled from James' psyche by Silent Hill, and we will come back to Maria later. James wanders Silent Hill, facing all manners of monsters, and he keeps going deeper and deeper into the town, and quite literally so, as he frequently jumps down holes, and there is some symbolism here too, but again, more on this symbology later, because this is going to be a very detailed video. As he journeys further into Silent Hill, he runs into Pyramid Head, a being which he cannot kill, and he is forced to run from him time and time again. He also has to watch Maria die several times over, most of which are from Pyramid Head himself. And he also has to deal with Laura throughout the game, who has a strong negative reaction towards him for most of the game until later. And it isn't until the end of the game when we find out that James' wife did not die from the disease, but he killed her. He smothered her with a pillow, and this is where a lot of reveal comes into play. And after this, James runs into the now Pyramid Head twins. He also runs into Maria, whom he thinks is Mary. He fights Maria, and depending on how you play the game, he will get one of the several endings. So what really happened to James here? Well, he faced his own inner demons, he faced the lies he told himself, and then he faced the murder he committed. He faced his mixed feelings and survivor's guilt he had to deal with for 3 years prior to killing Mary. And for those that missed it, Mary did not die 3 years prior to the game. She died fairly recently, as her body is actually in the backseat of his car, and Laura's age also tells us that Mary did not die 3 years before, but in James's mind, she died because of the disease. So let's look back at James' perspective before going into the other characters and the symbology of Silent Hill. We see multiple notes and dialogues that support these, so what I say here, I will try to keep as close to the facts of the game as possible and try to leave out my own theories out of it. It is shown in the game that Mary, after becoming afflicted with her disease, became very withdrawn. She pushed people away, she argued a lot with James, and she had severe mood swings. This made it harder and harder for James to take care of her, and on top of that, he was sexually frustrated as well. Intimacy in the relationship was gone. James would fantasize about the nurses whose faces he cannot remember, as he had desires he could not meet, and this made him feel guilty, but part of him also grew to resent Mary. In his mind, the Mary he knew and loved was killed by the disease when she first was afflicted 3 years ago, prior to the start of the game. It is shown with the leave ending that Mary asked him to kill her, but James lied to himself and told himself he only did it because she wanted her suffering to end. But of course, he was not being honest with those other feelings, the resentment, the lack of intimacy, and arguably the anger, and of course, guilt for having those feelings in the first place. All of this plays a significant role in how James views Silent Hill. So now that we have taken a look at James, it is time to briefly examine the other characters. Laura was a patient at the same hospital where Mary was. Mary came to care for her like the daughter she never had. The two were very close, and Laura hated the way James treated Mary. Of course, as a child, she wouldn't see or understand the serious mood swings Mary had as well. An example of this was when she screamed at James for bringing her flowers. Laura was called to Silent Hill just like James was. It was James who planted the idea in her mind that Mary was still alive. She was there to see the place that Mary, a mother figure to her, never got a chance to see again. Eddie was a man who lived a miserable life, being both physically and mentally abused by other people, bullied and tormented because of his weight. He tells James he killed a dog and shot a person, though there is no evidence showing that he killed a person, and he continues to kill people who look at him a certain way, who make fun of him and bully him. We later see this in the bodies that riddle the area around him in the final confrontation. Eddie has become mentally broken and twisted by the time he gets to Silent Hill, and the town takes its toll on him. Angela, probably the most tragic character in the series. When James first meets her, she seems mostly normal, but she periodically switches to a more childlike demeanor, with words like mama and the pitch of her voice slightly shifting. You see this happening the more James runs into her. There is another moment where she reacts very badly to James touching her. She is also fixated on the knife she carries. She eventually asks James to hold it for her, since she does not know what she might do with it if she continues to hold on to it. We later find out that she was sexually abused by her father, and her mother tells her that she fully deserved it. This leads her to kill her father. Angela is mentally damaged beyond repairs, and she cannot put this behind her, which explains why she goes off into the flaming staircase. So now that we have a basic idea that Silent Hill has called these people into the town, and it manifests aspects of their mind and projects it into a physical way, we see the town from James's perspective, but we can't get clues into how each of these characters sees the town. But let's start with James. Ever wondered why Pyramid Head cannot be killed, and why James's only option is to run, and why he has to face him occasionally, but even when he does, he always fails? Pyramid Head always leaves, or James has to run from him to get to a ladder or an elevator or whatever the case may be. This is because Pyramid Head is the manifestation of James's guilt, and his subconscious need to be punished for what he is guilty of. He killed Mary, he had negative thoughts about her as she was sick. It doesn't matter if these are normal feelings for couples to go through when one of them is terminally ill. He still feels guilty, not for his feelings when Mary was sick, but for killing her as well. He needs Pyramid Head to punish him, and also he has to repeatedly watch Maria die over and over and over again, usually to Pyramid Head. This is Pyramid Head taking Mary away again and again because he doesn't deserve her or her love. And one more thing to note on Pyramid Head is that there was one throughout the entirety of the game until there were two. These occurs after James kills Eddie while he was defending himself. James feels guilty that he killed again, so there are now two Pyramid Heads to face off with him. James backs this idea up when he tells Pyramid Head, "I know what you are and why I needed you, but I do not need you anymore." It is at this point he knows and accepts what he did and his feelings of guilt. He no longer needs to be punished by them anymore. And depending on your ending, this can be a pretty dark realization at this point. Remember earlier when I said Maria was the only person James met that wasn't real? Well, that is because Maria was the ideological version of Mary. It was Mary reimagined from before she fell ill. She embodies all the things that James missed. She is promiscuous and seductive because of the loss of intimacy in their marriage after Mary fell ill. She is sweet, kind, and understanding because Mary had pushed him away. She had become argumentative. She lashed out in response to her terminal terminal illness. Maria is the complete opposite of these things. She makes several comments that justify these ideas. She tells James directly, "Let me know when you're ready to move on," which has a double meaning. Yes, she meant when leaving Heaven's Night, but she also meant when he is ready to move on from Mary. She repeatedly mentions she can be whatever James wants her to be. She is the manifestation of his desires and his desires to get Mary back as well. Hence, she looks exactly like Mary. Then there is the fact that, like Mary, Maria dies, and she dies several times. In one scene, we can see her body with several splotches, insinuating some kind of disease. The nurses are faceless and they are scantily clad with stockings. Their chests are very exposed and they make seductive noises. These represents the urges and desires that James had when Mary was hospitalized. The legs are also sexualized. They represent similar things the nurses do, except they are focused on the lust he felt in general. The body bag enemies represent Mary herself, and James killed Mary earlier on, as I mentioned. There is a boss Ellie in the game which is shaped as a bed. It is fairly obvious that this represents Mary changed to her bed, and we even see a feminine hand after we defeat it. And later we come across Abstract Daddy, which I will talk about later on. Maria later turns into a horrific monster, strapped to a bed and shooting butterflies at James. These butterflies are obvious to her tattoo. They could also symbolize the metamorphosis of Mary from something James is searching for to the antagonist of his own mind. Once bitten, she becomes what appears to be a hospital bed, and we hear a call for James repeatedly. But the real question is, how does James see the town? James sees a town full of fog and mist, possibly representing the cloudiness of his mind, the brain fog and the subconscious trying to repress the memories of what he did. He sees the town full of aforementioned monsters representing his mind. If you notice, as the game continues, things get more rundown, more ruined, just like the decline in the state of James's health, both mental and physical. And there are multiple references to scaffolding covered in white large sheets. And this is an obvious nod once you know what happened to the hospital bed and hospital curtains that Mary and James had to endure. This about covers the symbology of James. We see things from James's perspective. Now, there are other symbolism that is difficult to classify elsewhere. For example, Mary's body is in the car. This also strongly insinuates that he never had a letter from her. The letter in James's inventory will be a blank piece of paper by the end of the game, showing how degraded his mind was and he didn't receive a letter at all. And also, we see that in some way he tried to honor his last promise to Mary with her body in the back of his car. We know that he tried to bring Mary to Silent Hill one last time. Let's start with hints of a childhood trauma. First, there is how she continues to slip into a more and more submissive childlike demeanor. Then there is her reaction to James. She says things like, "You only want one thing." She also freaks out when James mentions a little girl in town. Then with her knife, she says she's afraid of what she might do with it if James does not take it away from her. And at the end of the game, she wants it back. When James refuses, she asks him if he wants it for himself. And from this, we can really see that she has gotten to a point that she does not want to deal with her own mental anguish and pain anymore. She even explicitly tells us that she was sexually abused because she tells James, "You could always force me like he did." There is no other way to interpret that one. If you didn't pick up on what she went through from her other dialogue, hopefully this one will help you pick it up. The symbolism of Angela can only be seen in two places. Earlier on I mentioned Abstract Daddy, so now that we know from her dialogue what she went through, this monster becomes truly horrific. We see two individuals wrapped up in bed sheets, one clearly dominant over the other. This of course represents what her father did to her, but what some may have missed however is the backdrop of the fight itself. The pistons noisily grinding away, the movements of the pistons as well, and to risk not getting copyright striked or age restricted, I will stop here. But it doesn't take a lot of imagination here to get an idea of what this represents. There isn't a lot here, but we get a couple of indications. For one, at the flaming staircase, James states it is hot as hell in here, and Angela, surprised, tells him you can see it too, it has always been like this. And right here we can see that she likely views the town as constantly burning, like a literal hell. This is probably representative of her inner rage at her family. Remember, she very least killed her father, she may have killed her brother too, but we just don't know. It probably also represents the torment and pain she has to live through because of the trauma she had to endure. From this, we can also assume she does not perceive any monsters. There is never any indication that she sees monsters, as she doesn't carry any sort of weapon and gives James the only thing she could possibly use in self-defense. This insinuates she believes herself to be more of a danger than anything else. So very likely she is walking around in a monsterless town full of maybe ash. Now we will get into Eddie, even though there is very little there, but to be thorough I will cover what little there is left. Earlier on we talked about Eddie, how he was tormented, made fun of and bullied for his appearance, leading to poor self-esteem and feeling of self-worth. He comes to the conclusion and he tells James it doesn't matter if you are pretty or ugly, it is all the same when you're dead. He became murderous, enjoying the feeling of killing a dog and watching it suffer. He also shot someone, though he didn't kill him, but he carries that rage. Eddie was not a boss like Abstract Daddy. Instead, we face Eddie himself. But before the encounter, we see several bodies that are later in the room, and he mentions how he always comes back. This means the town is manifesting people bullying Eddie, bringing to light all of his self-doubts, his weight, and his feeling of worthlessness. He kills them every time, and the town keeps manifesting them back, which is an endless cycle of repeat. In the boss fight, we see hunks of meat in a freezer. It is cold like Eddie has become. These hunks of meat are vaguely dog-shaped. During this fight, I noticed him clinging to the memory of having power over something, watching something suffer like he has. So how does Eddie perceive Silent Hill? Well, we do not know anything as blatant as with Angela, but we do see the backdrop of the fight with Eddie, which is incredibly cold, frozen, and desolate. Hunks of meat hanging everywhere. In the theater, you can also see Eddie's breath, as if he is in the cold. Now, you might have attributed that to the ice cream he was eating. However, that ice cream is melted. He was scooping it out with his hands, and you see the pink stains as he licks his fingers. So it cannot be the ice cream making his breath cold, it's the room temperature. So with these two clues, we can get an idea that Silent Hill is some sort of cold desolation for him. Perhaps a cold winter representing how cold he has become to everyone and how isolated he feels from other people. We know she knew Mary was sick in the same hospital. We know she wanted to come to Silent Hill, likely to honor the wishes of Mary. So how does Laura perceive Silent Hill? Laura is an 8-year-old girl who is still innocent and doesn't have any baggage for the town to manifest. But still, we know she feels lonely without Mary. She is angry at James, but she doesn't know James killed Mary. But she does know she heard them arguing several times and that she feels James was mean to Mary in the hospital. Laura is also able to move freely, something she wouldn't be able to do if the town was dangerous to her. So Laura likely sees Silent Hill much like James does initially, just an abandoned town, representing her sadness and loneliness without Mary. But she doesn't run into monsters or encounter anything dangerous. We know at least Laura doesn't perceive the town as dangerous, as she seems genuinely surprised and questions it when James tells her that it is dangerous. As you can see, Silent Hill and its symbolism runs incredibly deep. There is a lot more to it than I have covered in this video, but I believe I hit on the main points. For those of you who have been posting on my Silent Hill videos asking for this, I believe that I have done justice to it. And I would have liked to shed more light into why the town is the way it is, but I do not want to spoil Silent Hill 1 for those of you who haven't played it yet. There are also 8 endings which I did not cover, as this video has already gotten way longer than I expected it to be. But I will say my favorite ending is the Stillness ending, which has the same feeling as In the Water ending, but there is an added bit I feel James deserved. I will not spoil it, but please try and go for that ending if you haven't seen it. Please, if you enjoyed this video, kindly hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell icon so you can get notified when I upload new videos like this, as I am desperately trying to hit 1K subscribers by the end of this year. And until next time, peace and love.
Incredible.